Last week we were at Donington Park testing the effects of our front upper camber plates on the BMW F80 M3. The effects were amazing and we're really pleased with the data that we collected and the difference that they had on this chassis. What it did outline is that we now need to start taking a look at the rear stability. So today we're at Donington Park with RMA track days and we're going to be fitting a set of our rear adjustable tow arms to see what effects they have over the chassis. And again, we're going to be data logging the before and the after and showing you guys the difference. We started to find towards the end of the day at Donington Park that as we got the front end so dialed in, we were losing the corner exit understeer, so we were getting on the throttle sooner out of the corner, and we were starting to find the rear losing traction. So that's the next step we need to address. The standard rear suspension system on the F80 M cars is quite limited in terms of camber and toe adjustment. So they both have an eccentric bolt that adjusts those settings as standard, independent of each other. However, they are quite limiting. So we've got the camber set on the back of this car where we want it, but that means we've now got our toe bolts near maximum to achieve the toe setting we're looking for. So to get even more toe is not possible without taking more camber away from the car, which we're not looking to do. So to achieve that, we're going to install a set of our rear adjustable toe arms that's going to allow us a wider range of adjustment, and we're going to get more toe in on the rear of this car, which is going to give us more traction and more stability, so that it's going to start to match the grip we've now got at the front end, and we should see a nice difference. So we're going to get out now with the car as is, with the camber plates fitted at the end of Alton. We're going to go around Donington Park, get some base data, and then we're going to fit the arms and go out again and overlay the data and see what the difference is. We're just coming off track and we've got the base data now for the M3, and initial feedback is very similar to it was at Donington Park. So as we're going through the corners, we're starting to lose the rear and corner exit. Now we've got so much grip at the front, we're pushing harder into and out of the corner, and we're getting on the throttle sooner because we're not getting that corner exit understeer anymore. So again, very similar to Donington Park. On the slower sections in particular, the back is just starting to creep around and we're losing that rear traction. So it's now lunchtime. We're going to get the rear adjustable toe arms fitted to the car. Going to get those on there and we're going to see what difference they make in terms of traction and stability and have a look at the data and see what we think. So we're going to get these on there now. Toe arms are a great upgrade for even a road car because they allow us to get that adjustment back and have the ideal camber and toe settings. Another thing they actually do if you get a road jointed arm like ours is it takes a bit of flex out of that rear arm. So as standard, the rear arm has a rubber bush in it, and as we're loading that arm up on track and we're going around aggressively on the circuit, it actually lets the toe setting change very slightly as the rubber is compressed on the car and it moves the tyre in and out. So you're actually getting differing toe settings depending on how hard you're pushing the tyre through the corner. When we fit a rose jointed arm, that setting is set and it's locked in position, and the forces go directly through the arm straight into the chassis without actually changing the toe setting. So hopefully we're going to see a lot more high speed stability. We should be able to push a bit harder and have a bit more confidence in the rear end, so we can start to increase that pace through the faster sections. And again, we're looking for that corner exit stability, getting on the throttle a bit earlier and using that extra traction that we can get by setting a more aggressive toe setting at the rear whilst not limiting our camber setting. So we're going to get this on the patch now, fit the arms, and we're going to give the car a full alignment and then head back out on track and see what difference these make. We've just finished installing the toe arms to the car now. So once they are fitted, you do have to give the car a full geometry alignment. We bring the Motorsport flat patch and the alignment kit with us on these track days, so we're able to install and then align the car straight away. So it's now all locked off. We're happy with the geometry settings. We've increased that rear toe in like we discussed earlier to get more traction out of the car. So we're going to head back out now before the end of the day and see if we've got more traction and more stability, and then we can see how that overlays with the data. So we're about to head out now and show you the lap after the toe arms are fitted. So we're just heading up on the final corner of the previous lap now to our fastest, and we're heading onto the main straight. As you can see, the conditions are still quite greasy, so the same as before lunch. So we've got identical conditions before and after we fitted the toe arms. So we're across the line now and onto our flying lap. So this was our fastest lap with the toe arms fitted immediately after lunch. So as we came to turn 1, it was immediately obvious that we were able to carry a lot more speed and enter with a higher pace and lean onto that rear tyre and not risk losing the traction. It actually got a little bit of understeer introducing the corner exit there, which was due to that rear traction coming back into the chassis after we fit the camber plates, which before it was more oversteery than understeery. Now it's much more neutral throughout the whole circuit. Through the craner curves and old hairpin here, we carried a lot more pace, and again it was just having that confidence to lean onto the rear tyre through the really fast sections of the circuit and not think about the rear stepping out on us at those high speed sections. So again, we carried a lot more pace through the curves, and the whole car just felt a lot more stable and planted. Coming up the back here, and again you'll probably hear the brakes, they were really starting to get a lot of warp in them despite being warmed up and cooled down properly, but that was starting to impede on us a little bit, so you'll probably hear that here into the heavy braking zones. Through this double apex section, we were carrying a lot more pace and, more importantly, getting on the throttle earlier here as we were pushing off down the back straight, and this increased our speed by the end of the straight by a couple of miles an hour, which meant that we got a much nicer lap time as a result of all these small increments of gain. Into the chicane section, we are again pushing nice and hard, and again before the toe arms were fitted, the rear on that corner exit out of the chicane was just starting to step out, whereas now it was nice and hooked up, nice and planted to get back on full throttle and just push on down to this hairpin here. Through the hairpins, the slower speed corners, it was less noticeable than the high speed corners, but still on the corner exit you felt that the rear end was more planted and just able to hook up and push on, as we were able to get much nicer geometry settings at the rear by fitting the rear toe arms. So overall this lap was a 1 minute 51.987, which was just under a second faster at 0.93 seconds than our previous fastest lap with the OEM toe arms fitted. So it's a really nice increase overall. So you've got that nearly a second difference, but more importantly than the time split between the two sessions, it was more about that increase in stability and feel and having so much more trust in the chassis. Similar to how we had that trust after fitting the camber plates with the front end, we gained even more trust again at the rear after fitting the toe arms. So the whole car now with the camber plates and toe arms is just raised to a whole new level of stability.
We've just finished now and brought the car in off track, so immediately the car feels quite a lot more stable, especially through the high-speed corners, particularly craners here as you come down the hill. It's a really high-speed section where you're transitioning a lot of weight and you're relying on that rear end being loaded and stable to commit through that corner. So it was definitely felt there and through the higher speed sections. Now that we've got that rear traction back, the car is now a lot more neutral, so we're entering a lot faster, and it feels like the car's now got a really nice neutral wash for the sort of mid-corner and out the exit. We're getting back on the throttle and it's hooking up really nice and pushing the car off down the straight. So we're almost starting to reintroduce that neutral balance, and it's not just loads of front end anymore, so it's a really nice balance front to rear. The tyres and brakes are definitely at the end of their life cycles now. The brakes are quite warped now. You might have been able to see that a little bit in the onboard footage as well. Towards the end, they're really starting to feel a bit of a judder through the brakes, so we need to replace the brakes, preferably upgrade them as well, because it's a bit of a recurring issue. Also, the tyres are definitely at the end of their life cycle too. Towards the end of that last session, the whole car was just starting to feel a bit too floaty, and that was definitely the tyres have just gone off. They've had enough, but we've got a heck of a lot out of these considering they're just PS4S tyres, so they've done really, really well to us. So yeah, really happy with the car. We'll take a look through the data. The whole car felt a lot faster. I've not seen the data just yet, but it felt more stable, and it definitely felt like our apex speeds were up due to that rear end being a lot more stable, carrying that speed. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. In the next video, we're going to be upgrading the front bushes. We're going to go to a solid bush and also to a caster solid bush as well, to see what improvements we get under braking and also how we can sharpen up that front end a little bit as well.